The first thing people don't tell you about managing a pop star is that it feels like babysitting a tornado with a pretty face. The second thing? Sometimes the tornado learns your name and suddenly your entire life is at risk of blowing apart. That's exactly how it felt the night I first met Adrian. It was Los Angeles, a rooftop party where every second person was either famous or desperately pretending to be. I was only there because my boss at the agency shoved me into the role. New talent, fresh face, needs a manager who can keep him in line. I thought it would be a quick job, one of those 6-month flings with a singer who'd vanish as fast as he came. But when Adrian walked in, messy dark hair falling over his eyes, leather jacket clinging to his frame, his grin sharp enough to make half the crowd gasp, something shifted in me that night, and I hated it, because managers don't fall for their clients. Not if they want to keep their careers. Adrian was a singer who had just begun to climb out of the chaos of local bars and dingy clubs. He had that dangerous kind of charm, the one that made people want to both worship him and ruin him at the same time. My job was to make sure he survived long enough to choose the former. "You look like you hate this party," he said to me that night, sliding into the empty chair beside me like he had known me forever. His voice was low, rough from too many cigarettes or maybe just the weight of life. "I don't hate it," I answered, lying through my teeth. "I just prefer when people actually mean what they say." Adrian tilted his head, studying me. "Then you're going to hate the music industry." And just like that, I knew he was trouble. Weeks turned into months. I followed Adrian everywhere, recording studios that reeked of stale coffee and ambition, nightclubs where he was both adored and hunted, interviews where he flirted with cameras like it was second nature. I kept his schedule, fought with producers, negotiated contracts. I was the wall between him and a world that wanted to consume him. But what I didn't realize was that while I was guarding him from the world, I wasn't guarding myself from him. He had this way of looking at me when he thought no one else was watching, like he was stripping away every defense I had carefully built. Like he already knew, and I kept pretending not to notice. Because rules are rules. Managers don't cross that line. Especially not with a boy whose voice could ruin me with a single whisper. One night, after a grueling show in Chicago, it happened. The crowd had screamed his name until the walls shook, their phones flashing like stars in the dark. Adrian came off stage dripping with sweat, his chest heaving, eyes blazing with the kind of raw energy that only came from baring your soul to thousands of strangers. I handed him a bottle of water. He took it but didn't drink. Instead, he stepped closer. Too close. "You saw them," he murmured, eyes locked on mine. "All those people. They think they know me." I swallowed hard. "That's the job, Adrian. They love the image. They don't get the rest." His lips curved, a broken kind of smile. "And you? Do you get the rest?" My heart slammed against my ribs. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say I was just his manager, nothing more. But my silence betrayed me. He reached out, fingertips grazing my wrist, a touch so light it could have been imagined. But it wasn't. I felt it like fire. "Don't," I whispered, more to myself than to him. But he didn't listen. Adrian never listened. From that night on, something unspoken lived between us. It showed up in the way he lingered in my hotel room too long after meetings. In the way his texts drifted past business hours into places they shouldn't. In the way my chest ached every time he smiled at me like I was more than just the man who carried his schedule in a leather notebook. But the music industry is ruthless. Rumors kill careers faster than talent builds them. And two men caught in something they weren't supposed to want? That wasn't just a rumor waiting to happen, it was a scandal with a countdown. So I built walls. Higher, thicker. I buried every glance, every thought, every ache. And still Adrian broke through. "Why do you keep running from me?" he asked one night in New York, his voice rough with frustration. "Because I can't afford to lose everything I've worked for." I shot back, harsher than I meant. His eyes darkened, hurt flickering like a wound I had opened. "And you think I'm worth nothing?" The silence between us was louder than any crowd. I wanted to tell him the truth, that he was worth everything. More than my career, more than my name, more than the walls I had spent years building. But the words stayed locked inside me, rotting in the dark. Because I was afraid. Afraid of him. Afraid of myself. Still, love doesn't wait for permission. And maybe it was inevitable that one day all the rules would shatter. It was a rainy night in Boston, after a show where his voice cracked on stage and fans still screamed like it was salvation. We ended up in his hotel room, silence filling the space between us like smoke. He stood by the window, rain streaking down the glass, city lights blurred in the distance. "I'm so tired of pretending," he said softly, not turning around. My chest tightened. "Adrian, don't," he cut me off. "Don't tell me we can't. Don't tell me you don't feel it too." And then he turned, eyes burning, raw and desperate. "Because I can't keep singing to the world if the only person I want to sing to keeps walking away." I broke then. The kiss wasn't gentle. It wasn't sweet. It was fire and fear and years of silence crashing into one impossible moment. And for the first time in months, I didn't care about contracts or rumors or the future. For the first time, I let myself be his. That was the beginning of something I couldn't stop, even if I wanted to. And maybe, deep down, I never wanted to stop at all. The morning after that kiss, I woke up terrified. Terrified because the world outside the hotel window was still the same, ruthless and hungry, ready to devour any weakness. But inside, lying next to Adrian, his arm draped over my chest, his steady breathing anchoring me, felt like I had finally stopped drowning. Of course, peace never lasts in this business. By the end of that week, the first rumor broke. A blurry photo of us leaving a club together, my hand brushing his back to guide him through the swarm of fans. On its own, harmless. But the blogs didn't care about harmless. They spun it into a storm. Secret relationship, hidden romance, scandal waiting to explode. I tried to pull away. I told Adrian we needed distance, at least in public. He laughed, sharp and bitter. "Distance? After everything? You think I can just sing to strangers every night and then go home to silence? Adrian, this could end your career before it even begins," I argued, my voice breaking with the weight of it. He stepped closer, his chest brushing mine, anger and longing swirling in his eyes. "Or maybe it's the only thing that makes my career worth having." And that was when I realized this wasn't just about music. For him, it was about survival. The world tightened its grip. Reporters asked invasive questions. Fans dissected every glance we shared, every lyric he sang. My phone never stopped buzzing, agents warning me, executives threatening me, friends telling me to let go before it destroyed us both. I could handle their anger. What I couldn't handle was watching Adrian break. Because behind the dazzling lights and perfect notes, he was unraveling. Nights where he'd call me at 3 a.m., his voice cracked and trembling. Days when he'd stare at the crowd with hollow eyes, singing words that didn't feel like his anymore. And every time I tried to help, he pushed back. "You don't get it," he snapped once, pacing the studio. "They don't want me, they want a version of me that doesn't exist. And you want me to play along, to smile, to nod, to be grateful. But what if I can't?" I wanted to tell him that I didn't care about the version they wanted. That I only cared about the boy who stayed up too late writing lyrics that made my chest ache. The boy who kissed like he was trying to set the world on fire. But the words tangled in my throat, trapped between love and fear. So I stood there in silence, and silence nearly ruined us. The breaking point came in Los Angeles, the same city where it had all begun. Adrian was scheduled for a televised performance that could define his career. The pressure was unbearable. The executives expected perfection. The fans expected magic. Backstage, I found him sitting alone, head in his hands, shaking. "I can't do it," he whispered. "Not tonight. Not anymore." My heart stopped. "Adrian, listen to me." "No," he looked up, eyes red, raw. "I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. And I can't keep pretending that what's between us doesn't matter." I sank down beside him, the noise of the stage distant, like another universe. "You matter," I said, voice low but fierce. "Not the image, not the stage, not the rumors. You. And if this world can't handle that, then to hell with it." For the first time in weeks, His lips curved into something fragile, something real. And that night, he walked onto the stage and sang differently. Not for them, but for us. Every note was stripped raw, every lyric laced with truth. And when the cameras zoomed in, when millions of people watched, he looked straight at me standing in the wings like the whole world could burn and it wouldn't matter as long as I was still there. The fallout was immediate. Headlines screamed. Social media exploded. Half the industry turned their backs. The other half leaned in closer, fascinated by the fire. But through the chaos, Adrian and I stood together. It wasn't easy. There were nights we fought, both of us bleeding from wounds the world didn't see. There were days I thought I'd lose him to the pressure, to the fear, to the lies. But every time I pulled away, he pulled me back. Every time he stumbled, I caught him. And slowly, the noise faded. The people who mattered stayed. The music became his own again, unshackled, alive. Months later, we found ourselves on another rooftop in Los Angeles. The city lights glittering like 1,000 restless hearts. It felt like a circle closing, the place where we had started and where, somehow, we had survived. Adrian leaned against the railing, a soft smile on his lips. Funny, isn't it? All the things we were afraid of. And here we are. I stood beside him, the air warm, the night endless. I was afraid of losing everything, I admitted. And he turned, eyes catching mine, steady and unflinching. I reached for his hand, fingers threading with his. Turns out, you were everything. He laughed softly, the sound like music, and then he kissed me desperate, not hidden, not forbidden. Just two men, on a rooftop, hearts finally unafraid. They'll still talk. They always will. The world will spin its stories, its scandals, its versions of us that don't match the truth. But at the end of every show, every headline, every storm will come back to this. Two boys who were never supposed to fall in love. Two hearts that did anyway. And for the first time in my life, I'm not running. Because this isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.